So you're in a foreign country, the zombie apocalypse strikes, you're stuck in a building, you have no idea what happened or how to survive. What do? Let's find out. The Night Eats the World is a 2018 horror film written and directed by Dominique Roche. This is actually his feature film debut. It's based off the novel of the same name written by Pitt Agerman. The movie stars Anders Danielsen as Sam, Dennis Levant as Alfred, and Gelshifta Farahani as Sarah. So the premise of the film is pretty simple. A loner goes to a party for a certain reason. While he's there, he gets bored. He isolates himself in a room. He locks the door and he takes a nap. When he wakes up, the world has gone to hell and it's a zombie apocalypse. So he's left only with his wits and limited resources to survive in the middle of Paris during this outbreak. The opening is fairly brief, but it's very effective in establishing who our character is. He goes to this party that is just filled with fun, cool, beautiful people, and he just kind of stays on his own, and he really doesn't want to be there. So you already see that he's kind of a loner as it is. Some very uncomfortable things happen to him at this party, but he never reacts in a negative manner. He kind of just deals with it. So not only do we learn that he is a loner and pretty comfortable being by himself, we also see that he is a calm and measured individual who's able to think about things during adverse situations. So I love the fact that you know nothing at all about what happened, what caused this zombie apocalypse, because that's exactly what Sam knows. So it's you and Sam in this apartment just trying to make it. And for most of the runtime while I was watching this movie, I felt like Sam was ideally who I would want to be in the zombie apocalypse, how I would want to react if something like this happened. He's resourceful, he's careful for the most part, and he's pretty methodical. And the pacing of this film really goes along with Sam's actions. It's measured, it's methodical, it takes its time, but it never really gets boring. And it's also helped by the fact that along the way, there are quite a few pleasant surprises and interesting things to see. Stuff that you might not have seen in other zombie films. And because it isn't this super fast, frantic zombie film, you really get a chance to contemplate what you would do and to think about the things that Sam is doing. Is he making the right decisions? Is he being careful? What would you do? Would you do the same things? So this movie is kind of wish fulfillment for those people who always wondered what they would do in a zombie apocalypse. It's probably one of the more realistic zombie films that you're going to see, so you're able to put yourself in Sam's shoes. So the story is great, but how does it look? For the most part, the film has an almost voyeuristic documentary feel. You feel like you have that camera and you're sitting right next to Sam throughout its runtime. There are frequent tight shots in this movie that show detail, but they're only really from the perspective of Sam. They're things that matter to him, things that are important to his journey. There are some other shots using cranes and drones that really give you the perspective of the city and how isolated that Sam really is. Paris looks absolutely dead in this movie. I don't know if it's the way that they filmed it, at certain times of day, or they did a lot of post-production work where they, CGI'd stuff out of the shots, and you feel almost certain that he is on his own. The editing is rock solid and really only changes with Sam's situation. So if it's an exciting, scary thing, then obviously it's faster. If it's something serious or more introspective, or Sam is down, then the editing is slower and it really makes you think about what's going on in his head. The lighting in this film is brilliantly done. Obviously, they use a lot of ambient lighting in the apartment, but there are some areas that he goes in that are dark, and there are some nighttime shots where he basically uses candles and things like that, and it always looks realistic. It doesn't look like there's a bunch of outside lighting. So I like that naturalistic feel of the lighting throughout the movie. So cinematography is pretty nice, but what about the sound design? The sound design in this movie is just fucking awesome. Most of the movie transpires with little to no music, except for the diegetic music that Sam creates himself because he's a musician. They never say it outright, but because he is picking up cassettes during the party, he plays drums, he makes music with stuff around the apartment, you know he's a musician, especially at the quality of the music that he makes. There are these massive stretches of the movie where there is no music, like I said. It's just ambient sounds and it's dead quiet. The only thing that you hear is stuff that you should worry about, whether it be Sam accidentally making a noise, or maybe you hear a zombie off in the distance or in another room or something like that. And honestly, I think these moments of quiet are 10 times more effective than most movie scares will ever be. So I still haven't seen The Quiet Place, but I'm going to watch it within the next few days. But I imagine that this film is very similar to that in the fact that sound is super important in this movie because these zombies are attracted to sound. So anytime you hear a sound that's not from Sam, you know it's probably a zombie. Anytime Sam makes a noise, you're like, holy crap, he just gave himself away. These zombies are gonna kill him. The sounds, the silence, and the music always complement the visuals, and that makes everything doubly effective. So it sounds like it could be spooky, but is it actually spooky? So you aren't given any info about the zombie apocalypse or how it happened, and normally I would get annoyed by that, but here it works. It's very effective because Sam is the same way. He doesn't know what happened. He just knows that he has to try to survive no matter what. Because of that, the world becomes very small and very isolated, and it all is just Sam and his immediate vicinity. And because his and in effect our worldview shrinks, details matter. I noticed at one point when he was rummaging through another apartment, there was a sticker on this cabinet, and it's the logo of a company called Planet Eclipse. That is a paintball company that makes these really good paintball markers. I was actually sponsored by Planet Eclipse at one point when I played paintball, so I thought that was a nice touch. But Sam then opened the cabinet and found a paintball gun. That's pretty nice detail. Now, only paintball players are going to notice that, but that's the kind of detail I'm talking about that the filmmaker really put into this film. But the details that truly matter in this film are those that revolve around Sam. Like I said earlier, Sam is methodical. He's very detail oriented, and all of those details matter in the world building of this movie. He methodically searches all of the flats in his villa. He stores rations and tracks all of his food that he scavenged from the apartments. He even keeps track of all of the days that have passed since the zombie apocalypse started. He sticks to a regimented daily routine to keep his life in order. So you get comfortable with Sam in this world. You get comfortable to his way of thinking, of everything being organized. So when that starts to break down, when his mental stability starts to break down and everything starts to go awry, you feel that his world is coming apart and you are doing the same with it. And that's all because of that detailed, methodical buildup of the same world. So is this movie about some dude just trying to get by, or is it about the zombies? Well, it is about the zombies, but not in the way you expect. And that brings me to scares. The zombies in this movie make no sounds. They make no sounds whatsoever. All you will ever hear from the zombies are these really disconcerting sounds like their teeth clicking or their hands hitting up against doors or windows or scratching. Basically, all of the things that they have can kill you, their hands and their teeth. But you don't hear them moaning or growling or doing anything of that nature. And for me, that made them infinitely more menacing than your typical zombie. Now, they are slow moving, but when they get kicked off by some sort of sound, they go into that 28 days later super fast mode. The fact that you can walk by one of these zombies in the shadows and you'd never know it until it was too late added a lot of menace and tension to the film. But what is truly frightening about this film is what would happen to you, what would happen to your mind if you did get the situation in hand and you were able to get safe or whatever. I'm not saying that's what he does, but if you were, how long could you last? How long could you be mentally healthy when you have no one else to interact with? And that's the main hazard that Sam deals with. That's the main thing the movie focuses on. What will eventually happen to Sam? What would happen to you if you were in that situation? What would happen to your decision making over time? Would you get delusional? Would you stay sharp? Would you become uncaring and kind of psychopathic if you needed to just to survive? So all those things are scary, but there are a few things that detract from the scares. The film's ending, the climax, is very tense and it is a bit scary, but ultimately it feels cheap because of some of the things that transpired before it. It just doesn't feel earned. It doesn't feel like it goes with the rest of the movie. And like most horror movies, this film has rules. There are rules to how you react and things that you do around the zombies, except the movie can't figure out what it wants those rules to be. Are they attracted to sound? Can they see? Are they attracted to movement? You know, all this stuff. You can never really get a handle on it because there are different things that happen throughout that make you say, what the hell, what's the rule? Now, that didn't make the film any less effective or scary, it just took away from that big ending. And I can attest to this film's effectiveness because last night, after I watched it, I went to bed and I had a nightmare about this movie. I had a dream I was stuck in an apartment surrounded by zombies. So that's how effective the scares and the zombies and the situation is in this film, and I think that's kind of awesome.
And now the moment we've all been waiting for is here.
We're out of time.
It's Judgment Day.
Most of this film is extremely effective. Sam is a great protagonist. He does run into a bunch of situations, but there are a lot of decisions that he makes that are kind of dumb. While most of this film is extremely scary and effective, it's ultimately brought down some by some of the dumb decisions in the movie, especially things that Sam does because of his mental state and his emotional well-being. I understand that's why that they were doing these things, why they made these decisions, why Sam did this stuff, but again, it just felt so out of character for him, compared to how he acted for most of the movie. So it kind of felt like Dominique Roche, the writer-director, said, how do I finish this movie out? And of course, like a lot of horror movies, the ending doesn't quite match up or, equal the rest of the film, though it does do better than many horror films do in the end. One side note, this movie is getting a ton of comparisons to Shaun of the Dead, which makes absolutely no sense because there is almost no levity in this film. There are almost no jokes throughout the whole movie. The only reason I think it's being compared to Shaun of the Dead is because it turned a bunch of tropes of the genre upside down and did something different. So with all that being said, I give The Night Eats the World a solid 7 out of 10.